you're asked to do it in both methods. Now, the first method is the grid. And it is not efficient at all. And again, I'm not going to expect you to do it often. I'm going to expect you to be able to do it once. Does that make sense? So I'm going to need a grid that is effectively 5 by 8 in order to be able to do this. So that'll be my 5. This will be my 8. I'll make that a little bit longer. And I need to split this up into 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So each one of these long strips is 1/5. Does that make sense? Which means, what is the whole rectangle?
5 out of 5.
In terms of a number.
5.
Go?
2.
One whole. It's one whole thing. And these are 1/5 of a whole thing. Does that make sense? Now imagine these lines weren't there. And I just went the other way instead. So that would be halves. These are quarters. And these are eighths. Does that make sense? So if I'm looking at my strips long-wise, they're fifths. If I'm looking at my strips up and down, they're eighths. And then if I'm looking at each little square, they're going to be 40ths, because there's 40 little squares. Does that part make sense? You really need to get why you're doing the grid if this is going to work for you. And the reason is, I need to take a whole object, and if I'm multiplying, I need to be able to split it into fifths or eighths. And that's how I could do it. If I split it this way, it's fifths. If I split it that way, eighths. If you understand that, then the rest will be clear a little bit. So, I need to fill in 4 of my 5/5. Because what I'm trying to find is, what is 5/8 of 4/5? Because remember, that's what multiplying is. It's of. 3 groups of 2, 4/5 of a group of 5/8. So, to begin, I'm going to color in 4 out of my 5/5. So remember, my fifths lines go horizontally. So I have to color in 4 of them. So that's 1 colored in. That's 1/5. 2/5. 3/5. And 4/5. And I don't color in the last one because that would be coloring 5/5. So that's 4/5 colored in. Now I need to find 5/8 of that. And lucky for me, each one of those lines has been split into 8 pieces for me already when I drew this grid. So now, of that colored in part, I need to find 5/8. So, if you think about it, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be 5 of my up and down strips colored in. 5/8. So I'm going to circle those. And I'm done. So this is literally a picture of one whole that was split into 4/5, which were colored in, and then I found 5/8 of that colored in part. And that's what that question is asking me to do.
Wait, but what did you circle?
I circled 5 of my 1/8 strips. So these are all 1/8 going down, and I colored in 5 of those and left 3 of them open. Cool. So now my answer is pretty simple. Now I color the ones that have both, or count the ones that have both, not color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That is 20 pieces colored in. Out of how many?
40.
It's going to be 40. If I counted all of the pieces, it would be 40. The easy way to do that is count by 5s or count by 8s. But either way, or just count by 1s. But regardless, that's 40. Now, if you were to simplify that, it would be a half. But I'm not super concerned about the simplification right now because I want you to see where those numbers came from. If you struggle with this, go on the internet tonight, watch this video again because it's explained in pretty slow detail. Just understand why I drew a grid. I drew a grid because I need to be able to see fifths of my whole. That means when it's split into 5 pieces, or eighths of my whole thing. And those are all split into eighths. You really need to be able to, until the very end, ignore one set of lines. Does that make sense? If I'm thinking about only the up and down vertical lines, those are eighths. If I'm thinking about only the horizontal lines, those are fifths. Brooke.
This is pretty much going to the next question, but what happens if you have like
Yeah, if you have whole numbers, don't do this. This is, again, it's a way to represent multiplying fractions, but trust me, it is not efficient, and I would never, ever do it that way. So, the second way, and the far, far, far more efficient way, and the way you're going to do almost every time, is going to be the 4/5 times, what is it, 5/8?
yeah.
Literally, tops times tops, bottoms times bottoms. 4 times 5? 20. We need to work on that. 5 times 8? Good. Even if you're not good at multiplying, you should have known it's the same as the last answer.
So you just
But-
times the 4 by 5.
Yeah, top times top, bottom times bottom. Yeah, multiplying fractions when you're following an algorithm is far easier. Shh. That part has to be super clear. Adding and subtracting, I must find a common denominator. And I'll use all of the various methods we've done on there. Multiplying, I do not need to find a common denominator. It is a waste of a step. But that being said, if I did find a common denominator, it still wouldn't be the end of the world. I'd end up with the right number.